A long and difficult battle has come to a disappointing end for Sue Rodriguez. The woman from British Columbia has lost her court fight for the right to have a doctor help her kill herself. The Supreme Court of Canada has ruled against her request for a doctor-assisted suicide.
Rodriguez is slowly dying of ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. It has left her barely able to speak, to swallow, even to breathe. Jerry Thompson has covered her legal fight from the beginning. Here's his report tonight.
For Sue Rodriguez, the disappointing news arrived by fax, more than 100 pages of it, explaining why the Supreme Court of Canada said no to doctor-assisted suicide. MP Sven Robinson helped her wade through the fine print of a split decision. 4 of the justices, including the Chief Justice, agreed with Rodriguez. In a minority opinion, they wrote that death is the final act in the drama of life, that death is an integral part of life, and therefore should be protected under the Charter of Rights, protected as much as the right to life is. But as Rodriguez made her way to a news conference, it was the majority opinion that weighed heavily on her mind. 5 of the 9 justices ruled that an individual's right to a dignified death does not override the sanctity of life under the law, and is not more important than the state's interest in protecting the weak and the vulnerable, people who might be persuaded or pressured to commit suicide. And therefore, Sue Rodriguez was denied the legal right to a doctor-assisted suicide. At her news conference, her voice barely audible, she expressed her disappointment, she thanked Canadians for supporting her, and urged Parliament to act.
I hope that Parliament will act and allow those who are in my situation to benefit in the future.
Sue hopes that Parliament will deal with this issue once it reconvenes after the election. She realizes that it may be too late for her, but for all other Canadians who are in a similar predicament, this issue should be resolved in Parliament.
In Winnipeg, a lawyer for one of the groups that intervened against Rodriguez said if doctor-assisted suicide were legalized, it might put pressure on the severely disabled.
And they're concerned that if it becomes accepted that people are supposed to free up the bed and commit suicide at a certain stage in their illness, that will become expected.
Dr. Scott Wallace of the Right to Die Society says if it's legal for palliative care doctors to give overdoses of morphine to control pain, then why can't the patient choose the time of death?
If it's all right to hasten somebody's death by a certain amount, why should they not have the right to choose the time that one dose will do it?
I don't feel physical pain, only emotional.
Although Sue Rodriguez is being treated for pain, she says drugs cannot control the emotional hurt for her and her family. An unidentified doctor has agreed to help her commit suicide, regardless of the court ruling, but she declined to say what her plans are. Jerry Thompson, CBC News, Vancouver.
And we'll have more on the Sue Rodriguez decision later in the program. The Supreme Court also ruled on another case today concerning Dr. Henry Morgentaler's private abortion clinic in Halifax. The Nova Scotia government had passed a law declaring that abortions can only be performed in public hospitals. But the High Court said only the federal parliament can legislate access to abortion, so it threw out Nova Scotia's law and declared that Morgentaler's Halifax clinic can stay open.